They're looking for some of the fuel from the craft that might have been stolen.
Element 115 was always something Bob said fueled the craft, a stable version. And to be direct, which Bob is being direct right now.
They mocked him as a liar, a fraud, even a madman. Yet decades later, many of Bob Lazar's shocking claims about Area 51 seem strangely ahead of their time. He spoke of anti-gravity propulsion, the mysterious Element 115, and hidden government operations. Ideas once dismissed as science fiction. But what if the man the world ridiculed was telling the truth all along?
Many isotopes of it. We've synthesized 115. We made one isotope. We have a radioactive one.
Could it be that Lazar, once dismissed as delusional, actually revealed secrets the government never wanted us to know? The whistleblower who shook the world. It's 1989, and a soft-spoken physicist named Bob Lazar walks into a Las Vegas TV station with the most explosive story in modern UFO history. With his face hidden in shadows and his voice disguised, he drops a bombshell that reverberates through the conspiracy world even today. Lazar claimed he worked at a top-secret facility called S4, located near the infamous Area 51 in Nevada. According to Lazar, he was tasked with something that sounds straight out of science fiction: reverse engineering alien spacecraft. The details were mind-boggling. 9 flying saucers, each with technology so advanced it defied our current understanding of physics. Anti-gravity propulsion systems, materials that could bend space-time itself, and at the heart of it all, a mysterious fuel source he called Element 115. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Back in 1989, Element 115 didn't officially exist. The periodic table stopped at much lower numbers, and the idea of super-heavy elements was purely theoretical. Most scientists dismissed Lazar as a fraud, pointing to this impossible element as proof of his deception. But what if they were wrong? The scientific community wasn't kind to Lazar. His educational credentials came under scrutiny, with no records found of his claimed degrees from MIT and Caltech. His employment history became murky, with government agencies seemingly scrubbing his existence from official records. Yet Lazar never wavered. Through decades of ridicule, government harassment, and public skepticism, he maintained his story with unwavering consistency. Either he was the most committed liar in UFO history, or something far more sinister was at play. The element and gravity waves. In 2003, Russian scientists at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research created Element 115 for the first time by bombarding americium with calcium ions. Though the atoms lasted only milliseconds before decaying, it marked another milestone in expanding the periodic table. For UFO researchers, however, the discovery was stunning, because Bob Lazar had spoken about Element 115 14 years earlier, claiming it was the key fuel source for alien spacecraft. While his description did not perfectly match the lab-made version, it echoed theoretical predictions of stable isotopes within the so-called island of stability. The element, later officially named moscovium, decays far too quickly to serve as a usable energy source, making Lazar's claims of a stable isotope even more controversial. He suggested extraterrestrials had access to a natural, stable version of the element, something far beyond what current science has achieved. This raised the tantalizing question: could undiscovered isotopes exist that match Lazar's descriptions, bridging the gap between science and his extraordinary claims? Beyond the element itself, Lazar described in remarkable technical detail how UFOs allegedly used Element 115 to generate gravity waves. According to him, alien craft could manipulate spacetime by producing their own gravitational fields, essentially allowing them to fall into distortions and achieve impossible acceleration. Far from random speculation, his explanation connected directly with Einstein's theory of relativity, but with a twist, suggesting gravity could be actively engineered. While mainstream science has not validated his claims, modern research is inching closer to concepts Lazar discussed decades ago, including gravitational waves, exotic matter, and experimental propulsion theories. Though we are still far from harnessing such technology, his descriptions remain eerily aligned with emerging scientific thought. Just as a smartphone would have looked like sorcery in the 19th century, Lazar's accounts may represent a glimpse of physics that humanity simply has not yet caught up to. The government's suspicious behavior. One of the most compelling aspects of the Lazar story is how the government has responded to him over the decades. Instead of simply ignoring a delusional man, federal agencies have taken extraordinary steps to discredit and harass him. Lazar's educational records mysteriously vanished from MIT and Caltech. His employment history became impossible to verify. Even basic details about his past seem to evaporate from official databases. This level of systematic erasure suggests either an incredibly elaborate hoax or a deliberate cover-up operation. The harassment didn't stop with document scrubbing. Lazar reported being followed, his phones tapped, and his business ventures targeted by federal agencies. In 2018, the FBI raided his company, claiming they were investigating a customer who had purchased materials from him. However, many observers noted the suspicious timing and thoroughness of the raid. Why would the government go to such lengths to discredit someone they claim is just a liar? The typical response to fraudsters is legal action or simple dismissal. The sustained, multi-decade campaign against Lazar suggests he touched a nerve that continues to throb decades later. The most intriguing theory is that Lazar did work on classified projects, but not necessarily alien technology. Perhaps he witnessed experimental aircraft so advanced that the government preferred to let him be dismissed as a UFO crank rather than reveal the true nature of their black projects. The Pentagon's stunning admissions. For decades, the government's official position was clear: UFOs don't exist, and anyone claiming otherwise is delusional. This stance made it easy to dismiss Bob Lazar as just another conspiracy theorist chasing impossible dreams. Then 2017 happened. The New York Times published a bombshell report revealing the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, a secret UFO investigation program that had been running since 2007. Suddenly, the same government that had ridiculed UFO witnesses was admitting they took the phenomenon seriously enough to spend millions studying it. A highly anticipated UAP report was delivered to the United States Senate, marking a significant shift in official acknowledgement of unidentified aerial phenomena. The released videos showed objects performing maneuvers that defied conventional physics, instant acceleration, right-angle turns at impossible speeds, and technology that seemed to ignore the laws of aerodynamics. These were official military footage, captured by trained pilots using sophisticated equipment. The parallels to Lazar's descriptions were unmistakable. The craft exhibited anti-gravity behavior, moved without visible propulsion systems, and demonstrated capabilities that our best technology couldn't replicate. After decades of denial, the government was essentially confirming that objects matching Lazar's descriptions were real. While this doesn't prove alien origin, it validates the core of Lazar's claims about advanced craft with impossible capabilities. The question shifted from "do these objects exist?" to "what are they and who controls them?" Scientific vindication and modern research. The scientific community's relationship with Bob Lazar's claims has evolved dramatically over the past 3 decades. What once seemed like pseudo-scientific rambling now appears prophetic in several key areas. Beyond Element 115, Lazar described other exotic materials and physics concepts that were purely theoretical in 1989 but have since gained scientific credibility. His discussions of gravity manipulation, exotic matter, and space-time distortion align with cutting-edge research in theoretical physics. Modern scientists are seriously investigating concepts like the Alcubierre drive, which could theoretically achieve faster-than-light travel by warping space-time around a spacecraft. This matches Lazar's description of how the alien craft operated by manipulating space itself, until science demonstrates a stable isotope with the extraordinary behaviors he described. Lazar's claims about Element 115 remain unverified, but not impossible. The key word here is "until," suggesting that future discoveries could vindicate even his most outlandish claims. Metamaterials research has produced substances with properties that seemed impossible just decades ago, materials that can bend light around objects, creating invisibility effects. If we can manipulate electromagnetic radiation in ways that once seemed magical, perhaps gravity manipulation isn't as far-fetched as it appears. The emergence of quantum physics has shattered our classical understanding of reality. Particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, information can travel instantly across vast distances, and the act of observation can change physical properties. In a world where quantum mechanics routinely violates our intuitions about reality, Lazar's claims seem less absurd. The consistency test. One of the strongest arguments for Lazar's credibility is the remarkable consistency of his story across 3 decades. Despite intense scrutiny, multiple interviews, documentaries, and constant pressure, his core narrative has never changed. Liars typically embellish their stories over time, adding new details or contradicting previous statements. Lazar has done the opposite, maintaining the same basic account while providing additional technical details that consistently align with his original claims. Decades ago, Bob Lazar blew the whistle on Area 51. Now he's back to explain the alien tech he worked with and the government's war to shut him up. This Netflix documentary showed Lazar sticking to his story despite having every incentive to admit fabrication or seek fame through sensational new claims. His technical knowledge has also proven remarkably prescient. In 1989, concepts like gravity waves, exotic matter propulsion, and super-heavy elements were fringe physics. Today, they're legitimate areas of scientific research with significant government and academic funding. The psychological profile doesn't match typical hoaxsters either. Lazar has consistently avoided the spotlight, turned down lucrative opportunities to capitalize on his fame, and expressed regret about coming forward with his story. This isn't the behavior of someone seeking attention or money. Most compelling is his technical competence in areas unrelated to his UFO claims. Lazar has successfully operated scientific businesses, built working particle accelerators, and demonstrated expertise in physics and engineering that's difficult to fake consistently over decades. The implications, if he's right. Let's engage in a thought experiment. What if Bob Lazar is telling the truth? What if he really did work on alien technology at a secret government facility? The implications would reshape everything we think we know about science, technology, and humanity's place in the universe. First, it would confirm that we're not alone in the universe, and that other civilizations possess technology so advanced it appears magical to us. These beings would have mastered faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation, and energy sources beyond our current imagination. The technological revolution would be unprecedented. Access to element 115 propulsion technology could end our dependence on fossil fuels overnight. Space travel could become as routine as air travel. The limitations that currently confine us to Earth would vanish. But the societal implications might be even more profound. The revelation that governments have hidden such monumental discoveries for decades would trigger a crisis of trust that could topple institutions worldwide. Every scientific textbook would need rewriting, every assumption about physics would require re-evaluation. The economic disruption would be staggering. Industries worth trillions of dollars would become obsolete instantly. The geopolitical balance would shift toward whoever controls this technology. Nations would scramble to acquire element 115 and the knowledge to use it. Yet perhaps most important would be the philosophical impact. Humanity would finally have confirmation that intelligence exists elsewhere in the universe, and that it has been watching us. This cosmic perspective shift could unite our species around common goals, or fracture us along new lines of conflict. The ongoing mystery and modern UFO renaissance. Bob Lazar remains one of the most polarizing figures in UFO history. His lack of verified academic credentials continues to fuel skepticism, yet his deep technical knowledge has convinced many that he had genuine insider access. His story is filled with contradictions, his claims sound outrageous, yet some have proven strangely accurate. He avoids the spotlight, yet still surfaces in interviews. Over time, his narrative has evolved from impossible to merely improbable, which suggests either uncanny foresight or hidden knowledge. The broader context of UFO disclosure has shifted dramatically since Lazar first spoke out in 1989. With the Pentagon now openly acknowledging UAPs and military personnel testifying to encounters, the environment has become more favorable for revisiting his story. Where once he was dismissed outright, there's now space to consider whether physical evidence, like exotic materials, propulsion traces, or element 115, might exist to back his claims. Modern instruments and scientific advances could, for the first time, properly test what Lazar described decades ago. Interestingly, many of the details Lazar reported line up with today's UAP encounters. Objects defying aerodynamics, demonstrating anti-gravity-like movement, and performing maneuvers beyond known physics. Whether this is coincidence or validation is still debated, but the consistency has drawn renewed attention. The stigma surrounding UFO research is also fading, with universities and governments investing in dedicated studies, making it possible to test Lazar's claims without ridicule. Ultimately, the next few years may provide the clarity that has eluded investigators for decades. Either Lazar will be exposed as a fraud who capitalized on mystery, or he'll be recognized as one of the most important whistleblowers in history. With unprecedented openness, advancing science, and ongoing UAP disclosures, the truth about Bob Lazar's story may finally be revealed. The Jeremy Corbell connection and new evidence debate. In recent years, Jeremy Corbell has emerged as the most vocal supporter of Bob Lazar, reigniting global interest in his claims. His 2018 Netflix documentary, Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers, introduced Lazar's story to a new generation, showcasing Lazar's infamous interviews and unprecedented access to the man himself. Through this work, Corbell transformed what many considered a fading conspiracy into a conversation that resonates with both UFO enthusiasts and mainstream audiences. The film positioned Lazar as a central figure in the growing dialogue around UFOs and government secrecy. Corbell's commitment didn't stop with storytelling. He has actively pursued evidence that could either verify or debunk Lazar's claims, filing Freedom of Information Act requests, tracking down colleagues from Lazar's past, and piecing together fragments of records. Among his most notable findings is Lazar's name in a 1982 Los Alamos National Laboratory phone directory, along with a newspaper article showing Lazar discussing his jet car experiments while being identified as a Los Alamos scientist. These discoveries don't confirm everything Lazar has claimed. They strongly suggest that he did have legitimate ties to classified environments, raising the possibility that his access to advanced projects might not be far-fetched. The significance of such breadcrumbs is immense. If Lazar really worked at Los Alamos in the early 1980s, it bolsters his credibility as someone who could have been recruited to even more secretive projects like S4. The lingering mystery is why records of his employment are so difficult to trace, with some believing they may have been intentionally obscured. Corbell's investigations also brought to light reports of Lazar enduring decades of government surveillance and harassment. An odd level of attention for someone officials insist is merely a fraud. This dynamic itself has fueled speculation that Lazar's story threatens to reveal more than the government wants exposed. One of the most heated debates surrounding Lazar centers on physical evidence, or rather, its frustrating scarcity. Skeptics argue that without undeniable proof, Lazar's claims remain stories. Yet defenders point to his strikingly accurate description of biometric hand scanners at S4, which in 1989 were virtually unknown outside classified circles. These scanners, which read bone density for identification, were later confirmed to have existed, lending unexpected weight to Lazar's testimony. The controversy extends to element 115, the exotic material Lazar claims powered alien craft. While samples he has shown have not matched his descriptions under conventional analysis, supporters argue that current science may not yet have the tools to recognize or test what Lazar insists he encountered. This debate cuts to the heart of the problem. How can claims about technology beyond human understanding be proven using the very science that has yet to catch up? The psychology of belief and the Lazar effect. The Bob Lazar phenomenon raises fascinating questions about human psychology, belief systems, and how we process extraordinary claims. For over 3 decades, people have been forced to choose sides. Is Lazar a truth-telling whistleblower or an elaborate hoaxer? The answer often reveals more about the believer than the evidence itself. Psychologists have identified several cognitive factors that influence how people interpret the Lazar story. Those with higher trust in government institutions tend to dismiss his claims, viewing them as attacks on legitimate authority. People with anti-establishment tendencies often embrace Lazar as validation of their suspicions about government secrecy and cover-ups. The Lazar effect has become a phenomenon in itself. The way his story has influenced UFO culture, conspiracy theories, and popular perceptions of Area 51. Before Lazar, Area 51 was largely unknown to the public. His revelations transformed it into the world's most famous secret base, spawning countless movies, books, and TV shows. This cultural impact creates its own form of evidence. Would a simple hoax have such lasting influence and continuing relevance? Lazar's story has survived multiple generations of skeptics, debunkers, and investigators. Each attempt to definitively disprove his claims has failed to deliver the knockout blow that would end the debate permanently. The persistence of belief in Lazar's story also reflects our deep human need to believe we're not alone in the universe. His claims offer hope that advanced civilizations exist and that humanity might someday transcend its current limitations. This psychological appeal ensures his story will remain compelling regardless of physical evidence. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Lazar case demonstrates how extraordinary claims can gradually shift from impossible to merely improbable. Scientific progress has made many of his 1989 predictions seem less outlandish today, suggesting that time itself might ultimately vindicate or debunk his remarkable story. 35 years after Bob Lazar first revealed his explosive claims about alien technology at Area 51, his story remains both controversial and eerily validated. With the confirmed existence of Element 115, government acknowledgement of UAPs, and serious scientific interest in gravity manipulation, many of Lazar's once dismissed statements now appear strikingly ahead of their time. His unwavering consistency and accurate predictions leave us questioning whether he was a master hoaxer or a groundbreaking whistleblower. Either way, his legacy continues to shape how we think about UFOs, hidden technologies, and the secrets buried within government black projects. What do you think? Has Bob Lazar been telling the truth all along, or is this the most elaborate science fiction story ever conceived? Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.